You want us to do what now? Admiral Zixtal stared at the holographic projection with all four of his eyes, mandibles twitching in what his subordinates recognized as barely contained exasperation. Conquer Earth, sir, repeated Lieutenant Cravan, trying to maintain his professional composure despite the awkwardness of the situation. The High Council believes it's a routine acquisition. They've designated it as a Class 3 civilization pre-FTL. And did anyone bother to actually study these humans before making this brilliant decision? Well, Cravan shuffled his datapad nervously. The initial survey was conducted about 300 local solar cycles ago. The species was still using primitive combustion vehicles and had just begun basic orbital operations. Zixtal clicked his mandibles together in what passed for a sigh in his species. And no one thought to do a follow-up survey before sending an invasion fleet? The High Council felt it would be unnecessary, sir. They're quite confident in their assessment. Of course they are. The Admiral turned to gaze out the viewport of his command ship, the Eternal Glory, at the impressive fleet assembled for this routine acquisition. 50 warships, each capable of reducing a continent to ash, waited in formation. It was supposed to be overkill for a pre-FTL civilization. He had a bad feeling about this. 24 hours later, Zixtal's bad feeling proved prophetic as he watched the humans' response to their arrival unfold. The fleet had dropped out of FTL at the edge of the solar system, expecting to encounter minimal resistance as they approached Earth. Instead, they found themselves facing something far more concerning. Sir, Cravan's voice had taken on a distinctly higher pitch. We're detecting thousands of artificial satellites and orbital platforms. Many appear to be defensive in nature. How advanced? Very, sir. Some of the energy readings are concerning. Before Zixtal could respond, a transmission cut across all their communication channels. The holographic display showed a human female in what appeared to be a military uniform. This is Admiral Rodriguez of the Earth Defense Force. You have entered restricted space without authorization. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions immediately. Zixtal felt his thorax constrict. This was not going according to plan. Still, protocol demanded he respond. This is Admiral Zixtal of the Galactic Hegemony. We are here to negotiate your planet's integration into our empire. There was a pause, and then something unexpected happened. The human admiral laughed. Not a nervous laugh, or an incredulous one, but the kind of laugh someone gives when they've just heard a particularly good joke. Oh, you're serious? Rodriguez wiped a tear from her eye. That's adorable. Let me guess. You got your intel about Earth from an old survey, right? Probably saw us when we were still figuring out how to get to our own moon. Yes, Zixtal admitted, feeling increasingly uncomfortable. Thought so. Well, Admiral, let me update you on a few things. First, we cracked FTL travel about 50 years ago, but we kept it quiet because we were curious to see how long it would take the rest of the galaxy to notice. Second, those energy readings your sensors are picking up? Those are just our civilian power stations. We haven't even powered up the defensive grid yet. Cravan leaned close to Zixtal and whispered, Sir, she's telling the truth. I'm detecting massive power signatures activating all across their system. Their technology, it's far beyond our current assessment. Rodriguez continued, her tone shifting from amused to businesslike. Now we could demonstrate exactly how outmatched your fleet is, but I'd rather avoid unnecessary violence. How about instead we invite you down for coffee? We can discuss updating your records about Earth and maybe talk about a mutually beneficial trade agreement instead of this whole conquest thing. Zixtal felt a headache coming on. The High Council was going to be furious. But as he looked at the sensor readings showing just how badly they'd underestimated humanity, he realized he had little choice. Coffee would be acceptable, he managed. Excellent. And don't worry too much about the High Council. We've already sent them a strongly worded message about the importance of current intelligence gathering. I believe they're currently having what humans call an oh shit moment. The meeting took place in a space station that, Zixtal had to admit, made their most advanced facilities look primitive by comparison. As he sipped the bitter human beverage called coffee, which was surprisingly palatable once you got past the initial shock, he listened with growing amazement as Rodriguez explained just how thoroughly they'd misread the situation. You see, she said, gesturing with her own cup, humans have this peculiar trait. We tend to advance very quickly when we put our minds to it. That survey you did, it caught us just before what we call the Great Leap. The Great Leap? Mm-hmm. Turned out all we needed was the right motivation. When we detected your first scout ships 3 centuries ago, Yes, we saw them. It lit a fire under us. Nothing unites humans quite like the knowledge that we're not alone, and that some of those others might not have our best interests at heart. Kravan, who had been quietly taking notes, looked up. But our stealth technology was impressive for its time, Rodriguez finished. But like I said, we advance quickly, especially when we're motivated by a combination of curiosity and mild paranoia. Zixtal set down his cup. So all this time, while we thought we were observing a primitive species, you were actually watching a civilization that was rapidly overtaking you technologically. Yes, we've been keeping tabs on the hegemony for centuries. Your invasion fleet? We could have destroyed it a dozen times over before you even realized we'd spotted you. But we prefer to make friends rather than enemies, when possible. And the High Council? Rodriguez grinned. Is currently dealing with similar conversations across about 30 different sectors. Turns out quite a few species they classified as primitive were just better at hiding their capabilities than we were. We've been in contact with most of them for decades. In fact, we're hosting the first meeting of the Alternative Space Alliance next month. You should come. It's going to be quite the eye-opener for the hegemony. Zixtal found himself laughing, a sound that startled his lieutenant. The High Council sent us to conquer Earth, and instead we're discovering that Earth has essentially conquered the galaxy without anyone noticing. Oh, not conquered, Rodriguez corrected. We've just been networking, making friends, sharing information. You know, the kind of things civilized species do instead of launching invasion fleets. And now? Now you have a choice. You can return to the hegemony and report your failure, possibly face consequences for not carrying out your mission. Or, she pulled out a datapad and slid it across the table. You could apply for membership in the Alliance. We're always looking for experienced administrators who can recognize when they're wrong and adapt accordingly. Zixtal picked up the datapad, studying the application form. The High Council won't like this. The High Council is currently discovering that they have far less power than they thought they did. Funny thing about trying to maintain an empire through fear and intimidation. It stops working the moment people realize they don't actually need to be afraid anymore. 1 year later, Zixtal stood on the observation deck of the newly renamed Eternal Friendship, watching Earth's sunset from orbit. The changes in the past year had been staggering. The hegemony had collapsed not with a bang, but with a whimper, as more and more species revealed their true technological capabilities and joined the Alliance. Still enjoying the view? Rodriguez appeared beside him, holding 2 cups of coffee. It never gets old, he admitted, accepting one of the cups. Though I'm still getting used to how quickly everything changes here. Did you know they've updated the station's design 3 times since we first met? That's humans for you. We're never satisfied with good enough. Speaking of which, how's the cultural exchange program going? Zixtal chittered in amusement. Half my crew is now obsessed with something called reality TV shows, and the other half has developed an addiction to something called social media. I'm not sure whether to thank you or blame you. Just wait until they discover cat videos. Too late. Kravan has already started a breeding program. He claims Earth felines are strategically important for morale. Rodriguez laughed. You know, when I was first appointed to handle first contact scenarios, I never imagined I'd end up explaining cat videos to alien species. But here we are. Here we are indeed. Zixtal raised his cup in a gesture he'd learned from humans, to underestimating humanity. The best mistake the hegemony ever made. And to new friendships, Rodriguez added. Much better than conquests, wouldn't you say? As they watched another sunset over Earth, Zixtal couldn't help but reflect on how differently things could have gone. The hegemony had sent them to conquer a primitive world, but instead, they'd found something far more valuable. A civilization that had mastered not just technology, but the art of turning potential enemies into allies. And somehow, that seemed like a much more impressive achievement than any conquest could have been. In the years that followed, the story of the failed invasion of Earth became something of a galaxy-wide joke. It was often shared at diplomatic functions as a reminder of the importance of updated intelligence and the dangers of underestimating others. But more than that, it became a story about how the most powerful weapons aren't always the ones that can destroy worlds, but rather the ones that can build bridges between them. As for the High Council, well, they eventually found new roles as cultural exchange coordinators in the Alliance. Turns out, their experience in dealing with different species came in handy when the goal was cooperation rather than conquest. Though they never quite lived down the embarrassment of having their entire empire undermined by a species they'd dismissed as primitive. And Earth? Earth just kept doing what it had always done, advancing, innovating, and making friends across the galaxy. Though they did maintain an impressive defense fleet, just in case anyone else got any ideas about invasion. Not that anyone would be quite that foolish again. After all, as the saying went in diplomatic circles, never try to conquer a species that's mastered both thermonuclear fusion and cat videos. They're clearly more advanced than you are. You're telling me they did what? Admiral Rodriguez nearly choked on her coffee as she reviewed the latest intelligence report. Zixtal's mandibles twitched in what humans had learned to recognize as a suppressed smile. The Proxima hegemony attempted to send their own invasion fleet. They apparently didn't believe our reports about Earth's technological capabilities. But that's... Rodriguez struggled to find the right words. That's like trying to rob a police station with a water pistol. I believe they thought our reports were, as you humans say, fake news, Cravan added, having thoroughly embraced human idioms over the past year. They convinced themselves that we had been... what's the term? Ah yes, bamboozled by human propaganda. Rodriguez set down her coffee cup and pulled up the holographic display. The tactical readout showed the Proxima fleet's approach vector, or rather, what had been their approach vector before they encountered Earth's outer defense grid. Did they at least make it past Jupiter? No, Zixtal replied, unable to completely hide his amusement. They triggered the automated warning system near Saturn. When they ignored it and pressed forward, the defense platforms activated their containment fields. Please tell me someone recorded this. Multiple angles, full sensor data, and, at the request of your entertainment division, commentary from several professional sports announcers. Rodriguez burst out laughing. Of course they did. Sometimes I think the entertainment division is more effective at deterring invasions than the actual defense force. The footage went viral across the galactic information networks within hours. The Proxima fleet, nearly twice the size of Zixtal's original invasion force, had approached Earth's solar system with all the subtlety of a drunk elephant in a china shop. They'd ignored the warning beacons, dismissed the automated messages, and plowed straight into what could only be described as the most embarrassing defeat in recent galactic history. The defense platforms hadn't even needed to fire a shot. They'd simply activated their containment fields, technology that the Proxima hegemony had dismissed as impossible, and trapped the entire fleet in a massive bubble of altered space-time. The ships hung there, unable to move or escape, while Earth authorities decided what to do with them. The sports commentators had had a field day. And there they go, folks. The Proxima fleet charging in with all the strategic planning of a caffeinated squirrel. Oh, that's got to hurt, Bob. They've just triggered the containment field. They're about as mobile now as a chocolate teapot in a sauna. You know, Jim, in all my years of commenting on failed invasions, I've never seen one quite this spectacular. The sheer confidence, the absolute certainty, the complete lack of basic reconnaissance. It's almost beautiful in its way, Bob, like watching someone try to headbutt their way through a force field, which, coincidentally, is exactly what the Proxima Admiral just tried to do. In the aftermath, Earth's diplomatic corps found themselves dealing with an unprecedented situation. The Proxima hegemony, rather than being chastened by their failure, had filed a formal complaint alleging that Earth had unsportsmanlike conduct in not allowing them a fair chance at invasion. The resulting conference call was one for the history books. Let me get this straight, Rodriguez said, pinching the bridge of her nose. You're upset because we didn't give you the opportunity to properly invade us? The Proxima High Commander, a being that resembled a cross between a peacock and a lobster, puffed up indignantly. It is traditional to allow the invading force to at least reach weapons range before defending oneself. Your automated defenses are unsporting. Unsporting, Rodriguez repeated flatly. We're unsporting because we didn't let you shoot at us first. Exactly. Finally, you understand. Zixtal, who was sitting in on the call as an advisor, couldn't contain himself any longer. High Commander, with all due respect, and I say this as someone who once made the same mistake, have you considered that perhaps the problem isn't Earth's defenses, but rather your assumption that you had the right to invade them in the first place? But, we're an empire. Invading less advanced civilizations is what we do. And how's that working out for you? Rodriguez asked with a raised eyebrow. Because from where I'm sitting, your entire fleet is currently trapped in a containment field, being used as an impromptu art installation. I believe the current exhibition is titled Hubris in Space, a Study in Poor Life Choices. The situation took an unexpected turn when Earth's artistic community got involved. The contained fleet, hanging motionless in space near Saturn's rings, had caught the attention of several prominent space artists. Before long, the containment field had been enhanced with various lighting effects, and the trapped ships had become part of an interactive art exhibition. Tourists from across the galaxy came to view The Folly of Empire, a mixed-media installation that used the Proxima fleet as its centerpiece. The ships were illuminated in shifting patterns, their immobile forms serving as a canvas for projected images depicting the history of failed imperialism across the galaxy. The gift shop did particularly well. "We have to do something about this," the Proxima High Commander insisted during the third emergency conference. "Our mighty warships are being used as tourist attractions." "They're very popular," Rodriguez noted. "The gift shop can barely keep up with demand for the "I tried to invade Earth and all I got was this lousy t-shirt merchandise." "This is an outrage, a mockery." "No," Zixtal interrupted, his voice firm. "This is diplomacy, Earth style. They could have destroyed your fleet. Instead, they turned your act of aggression into an object lesson about peace, and somehow managed to make it profitable at the same time." "But what about our reputation?" Rodriguez leaned forward. "Your reputation was shot the moment you tried to invade a civilization without doing basic reconnaissance. But we're willing to offer you a way out." "What kind of way out?" "The same deal we offered the Galactic Hegemony. Join the Alliance. Share knowledge instead of conquering. Trade instead of invade. And maybe, just maybe, we'll consider turning off the containment field." "And if we refuse?" "Then your ships become a permanent part of the solar system's art collection. We're already planning the next exhibition. Mistakes were made, a journey through poor decision-making in space." In the end, the Proxima hegemony did what all sensible civilizations eventually did when faced with Earth's particular brand of diplomatic humor. They joined the Alliance. Their ships were released, their crews were treated to a comprehensive cultural exchange program, which mainly consisted of being introduced to Earth entertainment. And slowly but surely, they began to understand why invasion had been such a poor choice. The art installation was maintained, though with holographic ships rather than actual trapped vessels. It became a popular spot for diplomatic meetings. Nothing quite set the tone for peaceful negotiations like a reminder of what happened to those who chose conflict over cooperation. And Earth? Earth just added another chapter to its growing collection of how not to invade us stories, which had become required reading in diplomatic training across the galaxy. The manual was particularly popular among new spacefaring species, who found it both entertaining and instructive. The final page of each copy simply read, "Remember, any civilization advanced enough to master both quantum mechanics and meme culture is probably not one you want to mess with. And if they offer you coffee instead of shooting you, take the coffee. Trust us on this one." Years later, during a diplomatic function celebrating the 10th anniversary of the Alliance, Rodriguez found herself sharing drinks with both Zixtal and the former Proxima High Commander. "You know," the High Commander mused, "I still don't understand how you managed to make our complete humiliation into a galaxy-wide teaching moment." "That's because you're still thinking like an empire," Rodriguez replied. "We didn't humiliate you. We invited you to laugh at yourself. There's a difference." "And the art installation?" "Is still one of our most popular attractions," Zixtal noted. "Though I particularly enjoy the interactive section where visitors can experience what it feels like to make increasingly poor decisions that lead to being trapped in a containment field. We call that the What Were They Thinking simulator," Rodriguez added. "It's very popular with military academies across the Alliance. Nothing teaches strategic planning quite like experiencing its complete absence." The High Commander sighed. "I suppose there are worse ways to be remembered in history." "Oh, definitely," Rodriguez agreed. "You could have been the empire that tried to invade us with biological weapons. Now, their ships are part of the really, really poor life choices exhibition." And so another evening passed in the Alliance, where former enemies shared drinks and jokes, and the only invasions were the occasional incursions of Earth's pop culture into otherwise serious diplomatic functions. It wasn't perfect, but it was certainly more entertaining than war. And somewhere near Saturn, the holographic ships continued their eternal dance, a glittering reminder that sometimes the best defense isn't a good offense, but rather a well-developed sense of humor and an excellent gift shop. "Have you seen the latest intelligence report?" Lieutenant Cravan's voice carried an unusual note of concern as he entered Admiral Zixtal's office aboard the Eternal Friendship. "The one about the Draconid Consortium?" Zixtal didn't look up from his terminal, where he was reviewing what humans called cat videos. Or the one about the smuggling ring trying to export unauthorized quantities of human coffee beans? Neither, sir. It's about the Omega Collective. That got Zixtal's attention. The Omega Collective was the last major holdout against the Alliance, a group of species that had steadfastly refused to believe that cooperation could be more profitable than conquest. What have those idiots done now? Well, perhaps you should see for yourself. Kurvan transmitted the data to Zixtal's terminal, replacing the cat video with a tactical display. Zixtal's mandibles clicked rapidly, the equivalent of a human whistle of disbelief. Please tell me they're not actually attempting what this data suggests they're attempting. I'm afraid they are, sir. They're gathering the largest invasion fleet ever recorded in known space. Early estimates suggest over 500 capital ships with accompanying support vessels. And they're heading toward Earth. It wasn't a question. Yes, sir. They seem to have convinced themselves that the previous failed invasions were flukes. Their leadership is claiming that sufficient military force can overcome any technological advantage. Zixtal sighed. Have they even bothered to look at the technological advances Earth has made in the past 2 years? No, sir. They're still working from intelligence that's at least 5 years outdated. Contact Admiral Rodriguez. She'll want to know about this. Zixtal paused. And alert the entertainment division. They'll never forgive us if they miss this one. The meeting room aboard Earth's primary defense station was packed with representatives from across the Alliance. Admiral Rodriguez stood at the head of the table, looking more amused than concerned. So, she began, the Omega Collective has decided to test whether quantity has a quality all its own. Thoughts? A Proxima representative raised a limb. Speaking as someone who's been on the wrong end of Earth's defensive capabilities, I suggest we sell tickets. Already being handled, a human from the entertainment division chimed in. We've got premium viewing packages available across 17 sectors. The proceeds will go to the Rehabilitation of Reformed Imperialists Fund. Rodriguez nodded. Good. Now, regarding the actual threat assessment? A holographic display materialized above the table, showing the approaching Omega fleet in all its impressive but ultimately futile glory. Technical specifications scrolled alongside the image. Their technology is approximately equivalent to what Earth had 50 years ago, the technical analyst reported. They've compensated for this with sheer numbers, but... They trailed off, shrugging. But it's like trying to sink a modern aircraft carrier with a fleet of wooden sailing ships, Rodriguez finished. No matter how many you bring, you're still fundamentally outmatched. Should we attempt diplomatic contact? Asked one of the newer Alliance members. Zixtal clicked his mandibles in amusement. We've tried. They respond to all communications with variations of prepare to be conquered, and resistance is futile. How original, Rodriguez drawled. Well, I suppose we should prepare our response. Entertainment Division, you're up first. The Omega Collective's fleet approached Earth's solar system with all the subtlety of a supernova. Their communications channels blasted continuous messages about inevitable victory and the futility of resistance. They seemed particularly proud of their numbers, repeatedly broadcasting their ship count as if quantity alone would somehow override the laws of physics and technological progression. They were met at the edge of the solar system by what appeared to be a single Earth vessel. The Omega Supreme Commander's laugh echoed across all channels. This is your defense? One ship against our mighty armada? The Earth vessel's response came in the form of a text message. Please stand by. Your regularly scheduled reality check will begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What happened next would be talked about in bars across the galaxy for centuries to come. The single Earth ship activated what they called a probability manipulator, a device that essentially turned quantum uncertainty into a weapon. The Omega fleet found their carefully planned formation turning into something resembling a cosmic ballet choreographed by a caffeine-addicted octopus. Ships spun in impossible patterns. Weapons systems activated only to fire party confetti. Navigation computers began playing something called Never Gonna Give You Up on endless loop. And through it all, the Entertainment Division's commentary team provided blow-by-blow coverage. And there goes the flagship, executing what appears to be a perfect triple axel. The judges give it a 9.5 for technical merit, but only a 7.8 for artistic impression. Oh, and look at that formation. The entire Third Fleet has arranged itself into what humans call a smiley face. Completely unintentional, but you have to admire the symmetry. Wait a minute, Bob. Are those ships in the back, actually? Yes, they're spelling out, "Help! We've made a huge mistake in Morse code." The Omega Supreme Commander's fury was broadcast across all available frequencies. "This is impossible! This violates every known law of physics!" The response came from Rodriguez herself. "Oh, those laws of physics? We rewrote them last Tuesday. Did no one send you the memo? Our bad." "You can't rewrite the laws of physics." "Technically, no, but we can bend them until they cry uncle. Would you like another demonstration?" Before the commander could respond, the Earthship activated its second system. The entire Omega fleet found itself transformed into an elaborate light show, each ship trailing rainbow colors through space while playing different Earth musical genres. "This is not warfare," the commander protested. This is entertainment," Rodriguez finished. "Much more profitable than warfare, don't you think? By the way, we're already getting excellent ratings across the galaxy. Your fleet's performance of Swan Lake, albeit unintentional, is trending on all major networks. In the end, the Omega Collective surrendered not to superior firepower, but to universal ridicule. It's hard to maintain an image as a fearsome conquering force when your mighty armada has been transformed into the galaxy's largest synchronized swimming team. The terms of surrender were uniquely Earth-like. 1. The Omega Collective would join the Alliance, after a mandatory course in modern physics and the economics of cooperation. 2. Their fleet would be upgraded to modern standards, once they promised to stop trying to conquer things. 3. They would have to participate in an annual performance of their now famous space ballet, this time intentionally. The entertainment division made a fortune selling recordings of the entire incident. The greatest hits of failed invasions became the most watched program in Alliance history, with the Omega Collective's performance taking up 3 full episodes. 1 month later, Zixtal, Rodriguez, and the former Omega Supreme Commander sat in Earth's premier coffee shop, watching replays of the event. "I still don't understand," the commander admitted. "You could have destroyed us. Why go to all that trouble just to make us look ridiculous?" "Because," Rodriguez explained, sipping her coffee, "dead enemies can't become friends. Embarrassed enemies, on the other hand, often become your best allies once they get over themselves. Plus," Zixtal added, "this way was much more entertaining. And profitable," the commander grudgingly admitted, looking at the royalty statements from the entertainment rights. "Though I could have done without my flagship performing the Macarena." "Oh, that wasn't us," Rodriguez grinned. "Your own AI decided that was appropriate. Apparently, it developed a sense of humor during the probability fluctuations." The commander put his head in his hands. "Is it too late to go back to being conquered?" "Much too late." Zixtal patted him on the shoulder. "Welcome to the Alliance, where the only thing we take seriously is not taking ourselves too seriously." And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, a fleet of ships continued to trail rainbow colors, a permanent reminder that in the end, laughter proved a far more effective weapon than any doomsday device. The end.